The city never slept, but Jin often felt like he did. A quiet storm inside, hidden behind sharp suits and a reputation for being untouchable. He carried his world with discipline, every detail in order, every weakness locked away. Until one evening, in the corner of a music bar, his eyes caught someone who did not belong to his world of rules. Aoey wasn't like anyone Jin had met before. His laughter was unguarded, spilling into the air like music. His eyes, full of fire, dared anyone to look away. He didn't just enter rooms, he filled them. And when Jin's gaze met his, it was as though time hesitated for a heartbeat. "Are you always this serious?" Aoey teased, sliding into the seat beside him as if they'd known each other for years. Jin raised an eyebrow. "And are you always this reckless?" That was the first spark. A clash of two worlds, discipline and chaos, structure and passion. Jin told himself it was nothing. A moment, a distraction. But Aoey had a way of tearing through walls without permission. In the weeks that followed, their paths crossed again and again. A late-night walk under neon lights. A shared silence at the edge of the river. Arguments that burned hot but ended in laughter. Slowly, Aoey slipped through Jin's defenses, peeling away the armor he had carried for so long. But with closeness came danger. Jin's world was not kind to love, especially not this kind. Whispers followed them, doubts sharpened into threats. And the closer Jin pulled Aoey, the more the world tried to tear them apart. Yet neither could let go. Aoey's fire devoured Jin's cold restraint, and Jin's steady presence anchored Aoey's storm. Together, they found a balance that felt like home. Still, every love story that burns this bright carries shadows. And theirs was only beginning. Love wasn't the problem. The world around them was. Jin had built his life on silence, on reputation, on control. To love Aoey openly meant tearing down everything he had built, and Jin wasn't sure if he was brave enough for that. Aoey, on the other hand, lived for the truth of his feelings. He couldn't understand why Jin would hold back. To Aoey, love was meant to be shouted into the world, not hidden in shadows. One night, the fight came. "You think I'm just a game you can hide whenever it suits you?" Aoey's voice trembled, not from anger alone, but from the fear of losing everything they had. Jin's jaw tightened. "It's not about you, Aoey. It's about the world we live in. I can't just throw it all away." Aoey stepped closer, his eyes blazing. "Then what am I to you? A secret? A mistake you don't have the courage to face?" The silence that followed was worse than shouting. It was the silence of two people who loved each other but could not find the bridge across their fears. Aoey left that night. No promises, no goodbye kiss, just the sound of the door closing like a final sentence. For weeks, Jin carried the emptiness like a second skin. He buried himself in work, told himself it was for the best. Yet every night, when the city lights blurred outside his window, he could still feel Aoey's laughter, still hear the echo of the one person who had ever truly seen him. Aoey tried to move on, too. He went to the same bars, laughed with the same friends, but his smile never reached his eyes. Every love song on the radio felt like a knife. Every quiet moment reminded him of Jin's touch, of the steadiness he had lost. They were both devouring themselves whole, torn between pride and longing. But fate has a way of weaving broken threads back together. And even in their heartbreak, destiny was already pushing them toward a moment neither could escape. Time passed, but the silence between Jin and Aoey was unbearable. It was the kind of silence that gnawed at the edges of their lives, leaving neither of them whole. Then, one rainy night, fate forced their paths to collide again. Jin had been leaving his office late, the streets glistening under the drizzle, when he saw a commotion ahead. A group of men, loud and careless, had cornered someone near the alley. And in the dim light, Jin's heart froze, because it was Aoey. Aoey, drenched in the rain, was still defiant, still refusing to back down even though he was outnumbered. That fire in his eyes was exactly what had drawn Jin to him in the first place. Without a second thought, Jin stepped forward, his voice cold, sharp, and commanding. "Enough." The men, recognizing who he was, backed off quickly. No one dared challenge Jin when his eyes burned like that. Within moments, the crowd scattered, leaving only Jin and Aoey in the rain. Aoey stood there, trembling, not from fear, but from the storm of emotions that seeing Jin again unleashed. His lips parted as though to speak, but no words came. Jin finally broke the silence. Why do you always throw yourself into trouble? Aoey laughed bitterly. Better trouble than hiding in shadows. The rain poured harder, soaking them both, but neither moved. For a long moment, it was just their eyes, locked in all the words they hadn't said, all the nights they had missed. Finally, Jin stepped closer, his voice breaking. I tried to live without you. I told myself it was safer, easier. But every day, without you felt like I was devouring myself from the inside out. Aoey's breath caught, his defenses crumbling. Do you mean that, Jin? Or are you just here because fate pushed us into the same storm again? Jin shook his head, rain sliding down his face. No, I'm here because I can't do this anymore. I can't pretend I don't love you. I'd rather face the whole world against us than live another day without you. For the first time in weeks, Aoey let the walls fall. His anger melted into aching relief, his tears hidden in the rain. He stepped forward, closing the distance, and Jin pulled him into his arms. The kiss that followed wasn't gentle. It was desperate, hungry, full of the pain of separation and the fire of reunion. It was two souls colliding, devouring the distance that had nearly destroyed them. When they finally broke apart, Aoey whispered against Jin's lips, "If you mean this, then you don't get to run again." Jin held him tighter. Never again. The rain didn't matter. The world's judgment didn't matter. In that moment, they had each other, and that was enough to begin again. But love is never simple. Reuniting was only the first step. To truly stay together, they would have to fight not just the world, but their own fears, until nothing could break them again. The rain-washed reunion was only the beginning. To hold on to each other, Jin and Aoey had to face not just their own fears, but the weight of the world pressing against them. Jin had always lived by rules. His family's expectations, society's whispers, the suffocating demands of reputation. Loving he openly meant burning those rules to ash. And that terrified him. But when he looked at Aoey, he saw something more powerful than fear. He saw freedom. The kind of freedom that only comes when you love someone so much you're willing to risk everything. Days after their reunion, Jin made a choice. He walked into the same office where people whispered about his private life, where colleagues sneered behind careful smiles, and he held Aoey's hand in plain sight. The silence was sharp, suffocating, but Jin's voice cut through it. "This is Aoey," he said simply, "and he's the person I love. If that cost me everything else, so be it." Aoey's heart pounded, not from fear but from the raw courage he saw in Jin's eyes. For the first time, Jin wasn't hiding. He was standing tall, declaring their love like a battle cry. Of course, the backlash came. People talked. Friends turned distant. Some doors closed. But for every loss, Jin and Aoey found new strength in each other. Their bond became unshakable, forged in fire and defiance. Nights that once were filled with silence now overflowed with laughter. Their apartment became a sanctuary, music echoing through the rooms as Aoey danced recklessly, Jin watching with a smile he never thought he was capable of. But the real victory wasn't in the world's acceptance. It was in their own. Jin no longer feared love. He embraced it, let it devour him whole. And Aoey, once terrified of being a secret, finally found peace in being cherished out loud. Months passed, seasons changed, and with every challenge, they held tighter. One evening, on a rooftop overlooking the city lights, Jin pulled Aoey close. "You once asked me if I'd run again," Jin murmured, his voice steady, his eyes soft. Aoey leaned into him, smiling. "And you said never again." Jin nodded. Then, with a rare vulnerability, he whispered, "So let's not just survive this world. Aoey, let's build one of our own. Forever." Aoey's eyes shimmered with tears, but his smile was radiant. He kissed Jin, slow and tender, sealing the promise between them. The world below them was still loud, still judgmental, still unkind. But up there in their embrace, it didn't matter. They had chosen each other against all odds. And from that night on, every moment, every laugh, every kiss was theirs to keep. Love had once nearly devoured them apart. But in the end, it devoured them whole, together forever. Rose the end, Rose.